as well as his counsel, Honorable Coren Wolf, who's here with us today, the permanent delegates, the MECs, as well as the special delegates who have joined in through the visual platform, SALGA representatives, and the media personnel in the House. Before we could proceed with question, honorable members, I just want to remind delegates that in terms of Rule 229 of the Council, the time for the President to respond to a question is 5 minutes, and 4 minutes supplementary question will be allowed. The member who has asked the initial question would be the first one to ask the Honorable President a supplementary question. Now, the time for a supplementary question allocated to members is only 2 minutes, and accordingly, the supplementary question must originate from the initial question that has been asked by the honorable member. Having said that, I now call upon our president to respond to question number 1 as asked by Honorable Muimang. Honorable President. You've earned so many names today, Mr. President.
Oh, really? Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, honorable members, and honorable delegates who are also here present, and everyone else who is here. Please forgive me for not wearing my usual attire, which is a tie and a proper suit. I think it is all in order to be celebrating Bafana Bafana's victory last night or this morning. That victory was inspired by all of us. Actually, I've been telling people that we scored the goal, all of us collectively, that ensured our victory. So it is a joyous day. It is a day for celebration. Honorable members, the government has identified illegal immigration as a significant challenge in our country, which has implications for social cohesion, national security, and the provision of services to our people. On the 3rd of June 2026, Cabinet adopted a comprehensive approach for migration management in our country. I outlined the key elements of this approach in an address to the nation on the 7th of June. The comprehensive approach that has been endorsed also by the Presidential Coordinating Council, which brings together all 3 spheres of government and our traditional leaders, was quite pleased with the approach that we are taking. We have, in addition, held briefings with faith-based organizations or sector, traditional leaders, organized labor, and organized business just last night, and a number of other formations. The first part of our response is a crackdown on violations of immigration, crackdown on labor and other laws that are violated. Law enforcement agencies are intensifying the identification and deportation of undocumented foreign nationals. This work will be supported by dedicated immigration codes. This we do because it is the norm that when one visits a country, must have documents that proves one's identity and also shows exactly how long one would be staying in the country. Inspections of employers' premises are increasing. The Department of Employment and Labor is recruiting 10,000 inspectors, as I announced in the State of the Nation address, and will increase penalties for employers breaching the Immigration Act. The second part of our response is to strengthen border security. We are directing resources to border infrastructure, technology, as well as bringing in more personnel to guard our borders. Our 6 busiest ports of entry will be redeveloped, and refugees reception centers will also be relocated to border posts. The third part of our approach is strengthening the immigration system by stamping out corruption and deploying technology. We are establishing an intelligent population register with biometric data underpinned by a digital ID and phasing out the green ID books that enable identity theft, as I announced in the address to the nation. The electronic travel authorization system is being extended to all airports and major land ports as well. The fourth part of our response is to close the gaps in our laws and regulations. Cabinet approved a revised white paper on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection to guide a unified legal framework that should guide our work in managing migration. The National Labor Migration Policy and the Employment Services Amendment Bill will introduce quotas for the employment of foreign nationals in particular. Now, to deal with the administrative backlog of asylum appeals, the Refugee Appeal Authority has recruited a number of advocates as additional adjudicators and continues to receive capacity support from the UN High Commission for Refugees to determine and finalize outstanding appeals. The final part of our approach is to work with countries across the region as well as our continent. South Africa cannot address migration alone. Through SADC, the African Union, and bilateral relations that we have with many countries, we will work together to tackle political instability, conflict, and economic hardships that drive people to leave their homes and to come here. We've made it clear that every person within our borders must be here lawfully. We have also said that responsibility for enforcing our laws rests with the state and the state alone, and that no individual may stop any person to demand documentation or proof of identity or nationality. There is no place for racism in our country, no place for sexism, for xenophobia, for Afrophobia, or any other form of intolerance. As government, we have put in place security and other measures to deal with any attempts to destabilize our country, whether by citizens or foreign nationals, and we will not tolerate any attempts to destabilize the country by anyone, whether marching or otherwise. Our security forces are ready, and those who transgress the measures that we're putting in place will definitely meet the might of the law. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. I will now afford Honorable Mwimang an opportunity to ask a supplementary question to the President.
Thank you, Chairperson of the National Council of Province. Greetings to yourself and also to esteemed members of the South Lebahi ba naga rena ka kakaretso. Segolobogolo President ya rena ya naga, Cyril Ramaphosa. Tla ke leboge karabo e o re fileng yone mabapi le boeteledipele jwa presidente a bo bontshang mo go ensuring gore problem ena e re nang le yone is addressed, particularly a referral to the State of the Nation address that you made on the 7th of June, 2026, but more so the referral to the employment of 10,000 permanent workers as reflected in the State of the Nation address, President. President, it will be important just to give an update in terms of the employment of those permanent, 10,000 permanent labor inspectors, more so given the fact that their responsibility is mainly to ensure that the strict workplace laws compliance. President, this is important given the fact that last week in Northern Cape, in Datlas, in the Pixley Kasimi District Municipality in Siaguma, 20 workers were in a makeshift boat that capsized. And out of that 20, 14 were able to swim to safety, but five of them, unfortunately, they passed on, which clearly illustrated the importance of making sure that there is compliance, particularly the work of the labor inspectors. What is quite giving comfort, President, is that in the 5 of those that passed away, there were people from Malawi, and to show the compliance to a larger degree of migration laws, they were documented foreigners. So it is important just to get an update in terms of progress that we've made in relation to those 10,000 permanent labor inspectors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Over to you, Honorable President.
Ke a leboga Tate Moimang, ke leboga potso ya gago le go batla go utlwisisa sentle gore bao ba re kileng ka re ba tla hirwa ba 10,000 ba dikete tse 10 setse re fitlhile kae ka go ba hira na. Re simolotse re ntse re baakanya le madi a gore ba kene tirong ba etse mosebetsi ona o botlhokwa thata ka gobane go tshwanetse gore mathata a re kopaneng le ona a immigration re kgone go a sebetsa sentle. We have determined that indeed we will be bringing in all those 10,000. We are doing it in phases. We're doing it in phases largely because of the budgetary concerns and restrictions that we have. However, we are finding pockets of finance that will enable us to bring as many as possible. And we did say that we would be doing so in the next 3 years. So we are bringing them in phases. And as they come in, they have to go through training. And they have to undergo training so that they are fit and proper to be able to execute the tasks that we have given them. It is unfortunate that a number of those undocumented workers are falling either on boats and drowning or passing away in a variety of ways. As South Africans, we pay our condolences to their families and to the governments of their countries. And we want this whole process of immigration to be handled within the parameters of our law and as smoothly as possible. For they too are human, and as South Africans, we must handle all these matters in accordance with our human rights culture and in accordance with our values. So we will always seek to ensure that the safety of even those who are not documented to be here is primary in everything that we do, and ensure that they are protected and they are safe as we process their departure. A number of them have opted to leave on a voluntary basis. And so therefore, we are facilitating that almost 10,000 of them particularly from Malawi, have opted to leave, and our officials are processing all that through the various reception centers in a number of our provinces. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. I bear testimony to that, Honorable President. I'm one of those who have been visited already. So what you are saying, it's already happening. I'm probably one of the few who has experienced it already. We'll now proceed to the next follow-up question, which is asked by Honorable Badenhorst.
Mr. President, I'm sorry I couldn't afford the scarf, but I could afford socks. So I'm wearing Bafana socks.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Scarf is too expensive for me, I'm sorry.
They borrowed me this, so.
I'm dropping a hint here. Mr. President, while concerns around illegal immigration are legitimate, the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, has been implementing reforms, including the digital transformation of Home Affairs, the strengthening of visa and asylum administration, and tighter enforcement measures against illegal immigration. And these represent the most credible long-term responses to the challenge of illegal immigration for decades. Given that the government itself has repeatedly warned against vigilantism and unlawful action, what specific contingency plans have been put in place by Justice, Crime Prevention and the Security Cluster to prevent violence, loss of life, attacks on foreign nationals, and a potential breakdown of law and order on 30th of June? And more specifically, Mr. President, who will ultimately be held accountable should government fail to prevent a bloodbath or widespread chaos? Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is true that the process of reforming our immigration measures is being implemented and being led by Minister Schreiber. This, what he's implementing, has long been in the making. It started off in the 6th administration. And we are grateful, therefore, that the work is continuing. And I should say that this is a collective work. It's not the work of one person. A number of people and officials, are involved. The Director General of Home Affairs, Mr. Makode, is leading the whole administrative process. The policies and decisions having been taken by Cabinet some time ago, and we're very pleased with the work that is being done. And Dr. Schreiber is indeed following in the footsteps of what had already been set in place. The Commission, all these measures is such that we are ready. I'm a strong believer that South Africans are peaceful people. They are not xenophobic. They are not Afrophobic as well. And they want peace. They just want every day of the week to go on a peaceful basis without any disruption of their lives, disruption of services, and any danger to the life of anyone. So on the 30th, as people are saying, all manner of things will happen. We are taking measures to ensure that the 30th becomes a normal day where people will be able to work, to go about their business. Our security forces are ready. NetJoins is firmly in charge of what could happen. And so therefore, it is our responsibility collectively. And it is all of us who are accountable, particularly all of us who are here as leaders. By the way, as we sit here, we're not just bystanders, we're all leaders. We lead people who have elected us to be here. So each one of us has a role to play. Wherever we are, to ensure we call for peace, we call for calm, and where there might be people who want to destabilize the country, we should speak out, we should take whatever action that is necessary on a legal basis and work with our security forces and work with our government officials. This is a responsibility that we all bear. But having said that, I'm able to say that our security forces will be on the ready to prevent anyone from wanting to destabilize the country. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up question is from Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable President, legal immigrants often display a strong work ethic and greater flexibility than many South African workers. When paid the national minimum wage, they accept far more flexible conditions and responsibilities while still earning significantly more than they could in their countries of origin. This is clear evidence that market forces are exposing a deeper structural problem in South African labor because it has become too expensive due to inflated legislation, rigid bargaining, high absenteeism, and an entitlement culture that often accompanies it. Employers in sections like construction, agriculture, and services are increasingly turning to foreign labor precisely because the total cost, wages, plus the tensions of strikes, CCMA cases, and low productivity makes many legal workers uncompetitive, local workers uncompetitive. My question is this: what concrete solutions is government implementing to address this expensive entitlement issue? Specifically, will you support meaningful labor market reforms such as less binding labor contracts, decentralized bargaining, and adjustments to early entry-level wages so that South African citizens can compete fairly? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable van den Berg. Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm tempted to comment on the thesis that the Honorable Member puts forward. A thesis which is archaic, so conservative, completely outdated, and it does not even begin to deal with the realities of the labor market today. If you were just to think about the employers who prefer to employ workers from other countries who are not documented, and if you just peel a little bit, you will see that those workers are actually being exploited. They are being paid slavery wages. They are also being made to work in the most unacceptable conditions. The conditions that working people in our country would not accept. And we have a responsibility as a nation, as a government, to make sure that people who work in our country, who produce the wealth that we all want to share, work in a decent place, they earn decent salaries. So those who are currently being employed by many employers, our Labor Department, Employment and Labor Department finds that they're being paid wages well below our minimum wage as well. And they're being made to work in the most appalling working conditions. But having said that, the labor market in our country is regulated by the laws that have been adopted by this Parliament, by the National Assembly and by the NCOP. And if there's ever any need for any reform, it is this Parliament that should deliberate on all those matters and bring forward those reforms. I often hear from people who speak out loudly about labor market reforms. They never specifically tell us, other than the issue of collective bargaining, what the real reforms that they want to see happening. The trade union movement in our country is working in terms of the rights that have been enshrined in our Constitution and in the laws of our country. And we should accept that. And the issue of productivity is a function of how our companies function. Should never be blamed on the workers of our country. The workers of our country have produced the wealth of this country. They work very hard, and they should really be applauded and respected for continuing to power the economy of this country. And if there's any weakness, it is the way that our companies are structured, the way our companies are run. They are the ones who are supposed to drive productivity so that we produce more and we produce much more efficiently. Other countries do that. 2 days ago, I read a report of how the earnings of South Africans have come down. In fact, they said they are at a 2-year low as a result of the increasing cost of living. So it can never be said that labor in our country is expensive. What should be done is the employment or the employers of our country should be as efficient as employers in other countries are and drive the economy of our country. And we should desist from blaming workers in our country for the lack of increased productivity. And we should also make sure that when we talk about labor reforms or market reforms or labor market reforms, we should be specific. We should not just do broad sweep. Be specific. The issue of collective bargaining is regulated by the laws of our country. And these are hard-won victories that our workers have won. And we should respect that. And we should work around that to see that indeed we increase productivity. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. We are taking the last question, follow-up question on this question from Honorable Noe.
Transvaal is fair. Thank you very much, Honorable President. Firstly, I just want to inform the President that he shouldn't be surprised that there is peace in the House today because there are no red overalls. Yesterday, Honorable Dlamini sent them packing to where they belong to their funerals. And then there will be others who will follow. Maybe next time when you come, you'll find others not here. He told them where they belong. So you will have peace today in the House. Honorable President, we just want to also agree with you and emphasize that the challenge that we have, it's not only about the porous borders, and that indeed South Africans are not necessarily a xenophobic nation. My question therefore is, Honorable President, what are some of the inter-regional efforts that the government has been spearheading in the African continent to ensure that immigrants does not leave their home countries to search for economic opportunities in South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Noe. Honorable President, you may respond.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. South Africa is committed to engender the development of our continent at an economic level, at a social level, and otherwise. Not only our continent, but our region as well. We would like to see increased economic growth, and to this end, the continent has adopted the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is really going to power the growth of our continent as countries on our continent trade with each other, produce goods, increase industrialization and manufacturing. We believe that when that happens, and it will happen, number of people will prefer to work near their homes. They'll prefer to work in factories near where they live, and thus getting them not to be tempted to leave their homes and go to other countries. Yes, South Africa is an economic oasis. The development of that we've engendered in our economy become attractive to a number of people who come from countries where there is less than adequate economic growth. We as South Africa are working with other countries in our region to foster integration, to foster economic development. And just tonight and tomorrow, we are going to be meeting SACU, which is the Southern African Customs Union, the oldest trading bloc in the world, where we are, amongst other things, going to discuss how we should increase economic development in our countries in the region. And knowing that by so doing and working together to foster integration, we will be establishing factories in the various countries in our region, will be industrializing. And as we industrialize, people in the various countries will stay there and work there. And this is something that we are all committed to doing. And we look at it more seriously, and tonight and tomorrow, that's precisely what we will be talking about. So we do believe that solutions are in place, and South Africa, being the largest economy in our region and indeed on the continent, has a responsibility to play a critical role to foster the economic growth of the continent as we foster our own economic growth, to make sure that we all adopt policies and reform our economic policies to ensure that we all grow together. So we want to ensure that no country is left behind, so that even the people in our various countries are not left behind, and they also enjoy the prosperity that economic growth will yield. And this is the direction in which we are going. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We shall now proceed to the second question, which is asked by Honorable Ryder, as to what steps have they been taken by a government to identify and remove the criminal infiltration and corruption within the law enforcement. That question, it stems from the Madlanga Commission finding. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System, which, as you correctly say, is chaired by Justice Madlanga, is expected to submit its final report at the end of August 2026. The findings and recommendations of the Commission are expected to shed light on the alleged corruption and infiltration of the South African Police Service and other organs of the state. Most importantly, we expect that the Commission findings and recommendations will bolster our efforts to strengthen our law enforcement capabilities. Now, the work of the Commission is already having a huge impact. The impact that is being seen by all and sundry. Following the submission of the Commission's first interim report in December last year, the South African Police Service, working together with the National Prosecuting Authority, set up a special task team to investigate referrals arising from the Commission. Now, all this emanates from the terms of reference that I gave to the Commission of Inquiry. Those terms of reference are closely at some of the misdemeanors and wrongdoings within our criminal justice system entities. Now, the task team that has been set up has begun its work in earnest and has already brought a number of cases to court. Matters that require disciplinary action are currently being attended to by the relevant departments. Earlier this month, Cabinet itself adopted the National Organized Crime Combating Strategy. As a short-term approach, the South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority, supported by the State Security Agency and the South African National Defence Force, have established multidisciplinary task teams to investigate, to disrupt, and to dismantle criminal syndicates. The task team is primarily focused on violent organized crime, economic and infrastructure crimes, drug trafficking, illicit mining, proliferation of illegal weapons, and corruption-linked crimes as well. Now, the SSA has been assigned to conduct vetting and lifestyle audits of members of the South African Police Service, especially senior managers within the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigations, the Criminal Intelligence Forensic Services, and the Supply Chain Management. It is clear that there is criminal infiltration and corruption within law enforcement, intelligence, and other organs of state. However, through the measures that we are undertaking, particularly the work of the Commission, as well as working within the law and according to the process, due process rather, we are rooting out these elements and restoring the credibility as well as the integrity of our law enforcement and security apparatus. The overwhelming, and this I must say, the overwhelming majority of the men and women who serve in our law enforcement and security agencies do so with courage, with a great deal of sacrifice, and some of them working under danger or dangerous conditions, and through the professionalism and the integrity they are displaying. And these are the men and women who work diligently and work so diligently that they are unable to uncover the criminal activities of the few. So these are the men and women that we applaud. These are the men and women who serve the Republic and its people with great deal of commitment. Our responsibility is to ensure that those who betray the trust that our people should have in our criminal justice system should be identified, they should be removed, they should be held accountable so that these institutions can continue to serve the people of South Africa with honor. And we need, as I said, to thank those who continue to serve diligently and with a great deal of commitment. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. May I ask Honorable Ryder to ask a follow-up question?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you, good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
Mr. President, South Africans want three simple things from government.
Yeah.
They want to catch criminals, they want the criminals convicted, and they want the institutions cleaned up, the institutions that protected these individuals. Now, the Madlanga Commission has suggested that organized criminal networks have penetrated large parts of the state itself, and you've confirmed that to us today. You've also told us that there are ongoing investigations, but I think South Africans want to see an example set. So can you tell South Africans today what senior officials have been removed and prosecuted as a result of these revelations? Or are we still trying to catch criminals while their accomplices remain on the state's payroll? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. You may respond, Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, the answer is fairly simple and straightforward. Before I appointed the Madlanga Commission, a number of South Africans were doubtful about the efficacy of appointing commissions of inquiry. They kept on referring to, for instance, previous commissions, and they were quite dismissive of the effects or the usefulness of these commissions. They kept on referring to the Zondo Commission and arguing that nothing has been done to implement the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. I have said on a number of occasions, even in these houses of parliament, that we have been continuing to implement the recommendations from the Zondo Commission, up to and including recovering monies that were stolen, and up to and including reforming or passing legislation, which the Zondo Commission said we should pass, up to and including getting people arrested. The investigations are ongoing. And we've also enabled a number of other people to be recruited into the police service to do specialized investigations, largely of an economic nature and otherwise. Now, with the Zondo Commission, with the Madlanga Commission, before I even get to that, we also appointed two other commissions, which has really borne great results. There was a commission we appointed for SARS. SARS had been captured. We appointed a commission, and it looked very, very closely at what had been done in SARS. The commission made recommendations, which we implemented, and had also recommended that a number of people should be removed, and we did that. Appointed a commission for the PIC. It came up with recommendations which are being implemented as we move on. Now, with the Madlanga Commission has been, if you like, a godsend to us, because a number of things that are being uncovered and that are being testified horrify a number of South Africans. Some of them were deeply hidden in the police service itself and in other agencies. They are being ferreted out and they are now being revealed. But at the same time, we crafted terms of reference that ensure that immediate action is taken. So people are being arrested, people are being prosecuted, people are being put in jail, and people are also being disciplined in the places where they work. So a wholesome process of reforming the police service is now underway. When the final report comes out, we will all be in a much better position of what has happened, what needs to happen, and how we should reform an important institution like the police going forward. So I want to say, largely because South Africans always want transparency, we made it all transparent, and we are working at all this, and I would say walking together. And we will make sure that every aspect of our police service is properly looked into and reformed, and where action is warranted, we will take action, as we are taking action. And all that is being done without favor, without prejudice, and without siding with anyone. We're doing it as objectively as possible in terms of the laws of our country. So much as it is difficult to give praise where good work is being done, but this time around, there needs to be a shout out. There needs to be. And I'm glad to see that you yourself are applauding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable President. Just before I proceed to the next follow-up question, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Leah Knott, who's the MP in the NA, as well as Danica Wilkin. We also have the former player of Moroka Swallows, as well as Mamelodi Sundowns, Councillor Pringle, and his son, Roos Springel. Can we give them a round of applause? If they may stand up so that they are acknowledged by the House. Can I request that you stand so that you are accepted, you are acknowledged? Thank you very much. We are now proceeding to the next follow-up question from Honorable Sithole.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Honorable President Ihlikani.
Clear.
I want to use this opportunity to say that the continued impasse and squabbling between the members of the South African Police Services and the NPA Investigation Directorate Against Corruption are very serious cause for concern and a potential security threat that must be dealt with decisively and immediately. Now, my question is, what actionable steps are you taking to ensure synergy within the security cluster and to ensure decisive action against senior officials in the security cluster who continues to undermine public trust in the cluster as well as against those implicated in shielding syndicates, destroying intelligent data, and manipulating evidence to aid criminals? What specific timelines have been set to conclude the mandatory integrity test, lifestyle audit, and vetting of the SARS management team? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sithole. Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. As an ardent Moroka Swallows fan, I would also like to give applause to the Moroka Swallows. I know that whenever I say I'm a Moroka Swallows fan, I'm laughed at because they say it's almost non-existent, but I will die a Moroka Swallows fan. Honorable Chairperson, a number of steps are being taken to stem the instability within our security forces, and particular amongst the key officials, and a number of processes underway to ensure that all the key officials in our security agencies work in a cooperative manner, and they put aside what could be seen as vengeance against each other and focus on the task at hand. The task at hand is to fight criminality. The task at hand is to root out corruption and to ensure that the criminal justice system and entities in our country regain the trust of our people rather than to be going at each other. And of course, we do want to root out those who are involved in criminal activities. And this is what we are indeed pursuing. The process of, say, lifestyle audits is being processed by, as I said, the SSA, and we have determined that all senior officials in our security entities should go through lifestyle audits. That is a rigorous process that is currently underway. And whilst I would like to give clear timelines, vetting processes and lifestyle audits do tend to take time, but they are being done. And as they get concluded, those that are found to be involved in various nefarious activities will be dealt with. That is the assurance that we would like to give. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable Farmer.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And good day, Honorable President.
Good day to you.
Maybe Bafana cannot help but do well because they have a very good minister. Honorable President, whistleblowers and officers who refuse to participate in syndicates become targets for their own corrupt colleagues, facing intimidation, victimization, or even assassination attempts. What is available to those honest ones who are also husbands, wives, mothers, and fathers? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Fana. I'll hand over to the manager of Bafana Bafana to respond to the question. Over to you, Honorable President.
Yes, I'd like you to remember, honorable member, I am the one who sent the Bafana Bafana team off to go and play for the country. And of course, as I said, I will definitely be at the final when they play to win the cup to bring it back. So that is what I can say. Some people say I'm delusional, but it's good to dream. And it's good to hope that our boys will do well and they'll do our country proud. The issue of whistleblowers is a daunting one. Whistleblowers are those South Africans who are brave, who are honest, who are able to reveal the wrong things that are being done, even by their colleagues. And we should really applaud them and thank them for revealing the wrong things or the criminal things that are being done. But we should also go just beyond applauding them. We should protect them. We should come up with various measures which we are working on to protect them, to ensure that they do not risk their lives as they do so. And those measures are in place, and they range from ensuring that they are safe, that their families are also safe and protected. So we will continue to do precisely that. And we also say and call on South Africans who see wrongdoing to come forward and know that the state will stand with them as we investigate acts of wrongdoing that may be happening in a variety of places in the state institutions. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. We are taking the last follow-up question from Honorable Pinar.
Thank you, Chairperson. Goeiemiddag, achtbare President.
Goedemiddag.
Mr. President, speaking of criminals, 5 senior ANC members have been named in the Madlanga Commission. One of them being your Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. Why has the ANC not expelled them? And when can we expect them to be arrested? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Pinar, Honorable Pinar, the follow-up questions that you are making here to the President has no bearing to the initial question that has been asked. Now, however, I will afford the Honorable President an opportunity, if he is willing to respond to your question, even if he doesn't respond to it, Honorable President, you are more than welcome to do that. Order, Honorable Pinar, he listened to you, the President, when you made your point, therefore afford him an opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. What I can say is that we should allow the Madlanga Commission to continue doing its work. And that is quite something that should be prominent in our minds. And that where there is evidence of wrongdoing, the task force or the task teams that we have established are empowered to take action. And they are taking action as the Madlanga Commission continues with its work. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. We are now proceeding to question number 3, which is asked by Honorable Modise in relation to the National Illicit Economy Disruption Program. Over to you, Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, the National Illicit Economy Disruption Program that we announced in the State of the Nation address is operational as a coordinated multi-agency enforcement operation. The program does not function as a standalone or a new structure, but consolidates and intensifies existing enforcement mechanisms that we have established. Some of these interventions are being implemented by the South African Revenue Service through the existing SARS compliance program and SARS illicit economy strategy. The Subnational Counterfeit, Contraband, and Illicit Goods Unit and its provincial counterparts also conduct enforcement operations, resulting in the seizure of counterfeit and illicit goods and arrests and prosecutions. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, DTIC, also contributes to this work through testing services and the enforcement of compulsory certification of goods. The department is working on enabling track and trace legislation to proactively deter illicit trade in key products. The current approach is focused on those economic sectors that are under imminent threat and pressures from organized crime and illicit trade, including tobacco, alcohol, fuel, and counterfeit goods. But they are not only limited to these, they are much broader. One day when I visited SARS, I was shown a whole collection of goods that are counterfeited and that are peddled in our markets, ranging from lipstick to medicines to all manner of other goods. So it's not only on alcohol and tobacco. These people who are involved in illicit trade are able to copy anything that has an economic value. Now, intelligence-driven operations are aimed at counterfeit clothing, footwear, apparel, cosmetics, as I was saying, cell phone accessories, and related goods. And at times when you look at some of these cell phones and apparel, you will even think that they are the original items that you buy from the original producers. Now, the South African Police Service and SARS, the provincial liquor authorities, and the Department of Agriculture conduct joint compliance and seizure operations targeting illicit and non-compliant liquor. Operations are also undertaken against illicit and counterfeit cigarettes, resulting in criminal cases and the recovery of excise by SARS. Now, the distribution of illicit trading in fuel is led by SARS, the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, and the Border Management Agency. The South African Police Service itself provides operational and tactical support to these operations. The National Illicit Economy Disruption Program builds on existing interdepartmental cooperation, and examples of such cooperation includes illicit financial flows, multi-agency task team, the Organized Crime and Corruption Task Team, and multi-stakeholder working group on illicit trade. All these activities currently underway form part of the National Illicit Economy Disruption Program, so that government can be in a position to proceed in a coordinated and comprehensive manner to deal with all acts that are part of illicit trading. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. I will allow Honorable Modise to ask a follow-up question to the President.
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. And probably firstly, I must take this opportunity to wish the Director General of Gauteng Government, Mr. Edward Musuwe, a happy birthday. And the Masiari President. President, thank you so much for the response. It's quite substantive if you take into consideration the question itself. I just want to check, President, yesterday when the referee blew his final whistle, I was thinking about you. And I'm like, President, please show off. Yeah, President, earlier this year, the former commissioner of SARS has indicated that illicit economy has grown so much more than the formal economy of the country in the past 15 to 20 years. Now, I want to check, is there a specific department or office that is responsible to coordinating the activities that deals with the illicit economy? And secondly, how does this then help in resolving the historical bottlenecks when you take into consideration Operation Ubus? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you. Yes, it was at 3 a.m. this morning when Bafana Bafana was playing, and a number of people in our country, including myself, deprived ourselves of sleep to see Bafana Bafana marching to victory and to give them the support, albeit from far away. And I think they could feel our support, the enormous spirit and support of many South Africans who were awake at that time. Even at that time, I spoke to a number of people, not so much to check whether they were awake, but just to exchange messages with them and say, do you see how they are playing? They were playing extremely well. I'm not saying this to be a football commentator, which I am not, but they played extremely well. The work that we are doing to deal with illicit trade is actually integrated. It's coordinated through this program that I spoke about, the National Illicit Economy Disruption Program. And it is a program in which SARS plays a key role, in which DTIC also play a key role, the Border Management Agency, who are really at the front face of dealing with people who are coming with all illicit goods, counterfeit goods, and the South African police are also on hand to deal with all this. And also Agriculture Department also is involved in working together with all other departments. And this has helped us to break down the silos that have often prevailed in government, where various departments tend to work alone. Now, through this program, we've enabled them to work together and to be able to cooperate at a very high level to ensure that illicit trading of goods, of counterfeit goods, is actually kept. Now, illicit trading, as you correctly said, has been growing by leaps and bounds, not only in our country, but globally. There are gangs and people who are committed to counterfeiting goods, who sell goods that are not made by the original manufacturers, and they deceive people. They hawk these goods not only from cigarettes and, as I said, even from harmful substances that get sold, and they are sort of presented as very good and helpful products, and yet they are actually substandard in many, many ways. So a combination of all these entities working together is able to bring about checks and balances and ensure that real identification of various loopholes is actually found and arrested. So I do believe that through this structure, we are really succeeding in dealing with the illicit economy. Of course, those people who get involved in the illicit economy are clever. They keep changing their rules and their processes and their ways of doing business. But we are on their tracks, and we will lessen and reduce illicit trade in our country. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable Boshoff, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon to you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you have repeatedly spoken about building an ethical and capable state. Do you accept that public confidence in the fight against illicit economy is weakened when South Africans perceive that accountability is often demanded of others, but seldom demonstrated at the highest levels of government? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Boshoff. Over to you, Honorable President.
Of course, we demand accountability all round. And we often say that we want all of us in South Africa to be accountable, to be people who work on the basis of integrity. And this, we have said, particularly in building a capable state, a state which has integrity, and a state which will serve the people of South Africa with due respect for our constitution and the values that we as South Africans have espoused. This is the position that we always put out there. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. We are now proceeding to Honorable Mulukume.
Thank you, Chairperson. President welcome and ke wishetše Bafana Bafana that they've won. President, unlike others who managed to wake up and watch the soccer, but immediately when I heard that we did well, I was the first one to jump out of my bed to celebrate. Thank you, Mr. President, for the depth reply, and acknowledge the interagency collaboration to enforce compliance. My question is on the other aspect of these illicit activities that are taking place, President. That is there illicit financial flows? Has the government made any assessment on the implementation and impact of government policies, and also the enforcement measures and international cooperation initiatives to combat the outflows of billions of rand through tax evasion and other corrupt activities? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mulukume. Honorable President.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson. We do have agencies in government whose task and work is to monitor the flow of illicit money, and they are quite active. And the FIC, for instance, is able to track transactions that are suspicious, and they are able to raise the alarm so that the various other agencies or entities in government are able to follow through and ensure that action is taken. So, as you correctly say, illicit trading, illicit economy is always accompanied by illicit money flows. And so agencies that we have are able to look at that very closely and see exactly some of those trades that are taking place. And because our economy is so big, they are able to be on their toes and look at various transactions that they believe are suspicious. So that is done on a regular basis. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
President, we're now proceeding to Honorable Brits.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Mr. President, trade in illicit products like cigarettes and liquor became embedded during the COVID-19 lockdown period, and it is still thriving today. You can still openly buy illicit cigarettes at the spaza shop on the corner, and it is costing the economy billions in lost legitimate revenue. Now, you have answered a number of questions, but what evidence exists that this program you announced is indeed disrupting syndicates rather than simply increasing the cost of doing business for criminals? Simultaneously, chasing away thousands of affected legal job opportunities and legitimate companies. Like British American Tobacco. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Brits. Over to you, Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, the current Commission of SARS, as well as the previous one, have highlighted the concerns that we should all have about illicit traded products. And when it comes to those two items that you have highlighted, there are special operations that are being pursued or worked on to identify those who are involved in those illicit trade. Networks. So that is a process that is currently underway, and I am satisfied that with the hawkish eye that SARS has on illicit trading, we are going to continue seeing a lot of progress. Excuse me, therefore, for doing that.
Thank you, Honorable President. You may proceed.
I said that you will excuse me because I will not be able to answer.
Don't listen for meaning most of the time.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We are now proceeding to question number 5. I misread you, I must say, of the previous one. Okay, the next question is from Honorable van den Berg, which talks about the South Africa's alignment with certain states. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. South Africa's foreign policy is guided by our constitution, which commits the Republic to the promotion of human rights, peace, multilateralism, and a rules-based international order. In this context, South Africa engages with a wide range of countries across the globe, based on sovereign equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. And I've often said that we don't see ourselves as a country having enemies. We are a country that seeks to be at peace with all other countries and have good relations with all. We maintain diplomatic relations with countries across different regions and political systems in pursuit of our national interests and also our commitment to constructive global engagement. This approach is consistent with South Africa's long-standing policy of non-alignment and strategic autonomy. Engagement with the People's Republic of China and various other countries takes place within this framework. This engagement takes place through bilateral relations that we have with many countries across the world and multilateral platforms, which we are a part of, with a view to advancing dialogue, cooperation, and peaceful resolution of disputes. The Minister of International Relations and Cooperation acts in accordance with the policy positions of our government and within the mandate provided by the President and our Cabinet. South Africa remains committed to its policy of non-alignment. This does not imply neutrality or disengagement, but rather an independent foreign policy that seeks to promote dialogue, cooperation, and peaceful resolution of global challenges. Government will continue to engage all international partners in a balanced and principled manner, consistent with the national interests and constitutional values. South Africa values its long-standing bilateral relationship with the United States and continues to engage constructively with the United States on areas of mutual interest. Even in areas where we disagree, even in areas where we do agree, we continue to engage, because non-engagement does not serve any of us any good. Efforts to strengthen and normalize relations include ongoing diplomatic engagements, dialogue through bilateral mechanisms, and cooperation in areas such as trade, investment, health, education, and security, and also the promotion of people-to-people contact. Government remains committed to addressing matters of concern through respectful engagement and dialogue with a view to maintaining a constructive and mutually beneficial partnership with the United States while preserving South Africa's independent foreign policy stance. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. President, if non-alignment is genuine, why then host military drills with these mentioned countries while relations with the US deteriorate, as we have seen with lost funding recently? What specific distancing steps and timeline can South Africans then expect?
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable van der Berg, you may want to know that in implementing our international relations policy, when it comes to things like military exercises or naval exercises, we do from time to time have military or naval exercises with a number of countries, including the United States, including a number of so-called Western countries, and countries that are in the East, India, China, and many others. And military exercises like those are so useful in enabling us to have insight, not only in the capability, but in new technologies that various countries have. We share not only experiences, but we share experiences when it comes to manner of either warfare, manner of ensuring that we keep the peace on an international basis. And in the end, we see nothing wrong in engaging in military exercises with the United States, with China, and other countries. And as our former president, the founding president said, it should never be that one's enemy should be depicted as an enemy of all. We don't operate on that basis because we often find that even those that you may regard as your enemies, in the end, we often find that you do deal with them. And so therefore, to avoid being hypocritical, we are able to maintain relations across a number of areas of the world. And in doing so, we keep our own sovereignty, our own integrity, because those two must never be sacrificed. Those two must never be compromised. And we have never, in dealing with a variety of nations, sold out our soul as a nation, or our integrity, or our sovereignty. And even in dealing with them, we always ensure that they know what our stance is, that we are a self-respecting country, a country that is proud of our history, proud of the values that we stand for, and we're able to deal with them on the basis of respect and on the basis that they too will respect our standing and our sovereignty. And in many ways, we are respected around the world for the positions that we hold. I can give you a good example. You know, during the Ukraine-Russia, as the war as it has been going on, we have become one of the very few countries that is able to talk to both sides, whereas others only prefer to talk to one. And those who don't want to talk to the others often come to us and say, could you please pass on this and that message to the other side? And so you know, in that conflict, we are one of those very few countries that has been able to do a number of things to give assistance to the resolution of the conflict. And we don't stand on rooftops and shout and scream about the role we play. And both sides respect us for the role we play. And even as they engage with each other on a variety of platforms, we often find that they call us, they send messages to us and tell us that this is where we are going, this is what we are doing. And that to us demonstrates the respect that they have for the stance that we always take and the role that we play. We play a positive role in the world with regard to the resolution of disputes. And we are not shy, we're not shy at all to vocalize that. And those who have problems don't know the impact that South Africa has on the global stage. It is a positive role that we play. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable Lehwase.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good day to you, President. Honorable Chairperson, it is clear and worrisome that there are members of this Parliament who do not understand the South Africa's foreign policy of non-alignment, but this is a topic for another day. Mr. President, kindly give us progress that South Africa is making in using economic diplomacy to protect South African industries without abandoning its non-aligned position, particularly on critical domestic sectors like steel, that we have witnessed unilaterally trade disputes and tariff policies imposed by countries such as the United States and the European Union. And how does South Africa ensure its non-alignment position is interpreted as strategic importance rather than bias? Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Lehwase. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We are able to exercise our economic diplomacy, which is grounded on our broad international policy position. And as I was saying earlier, it is a policy position that is based on our non-alignment, which enables us to deal with a variety of players in the world. And many have come to accept that the non-aligned position that we have opted for stands us in good stead, because we are not tied to any bloc in the world. We are tied to multilateralism, which we respect deeply. We play a role in various multilateral organizations on a voluntary basis. We are not compelled to be in the UN, which is the family of all nations, I must say. We are not compelled to be in the Commonwealth, in BRICS, or in the non-aligned movement. It is by choice, and it is through exercising our own policy position. And armed with that, we're then able to exercise it through economic diplomacy. And where there are, for instance, disputes of an economic nature, we're able, armed with our non-aligned policy, to be able to engage with all countries without saying we will not talk to this one or we will not talk to this one. It enables us to engage with all to advance the interests of South Africa. And we should understand that the real foundation of our international policy is to advance the interests of South Africa. And to do so, we will engage on a basis of sovereignty, of respect for others with a variety of countries. So for instance, when it comes to trade negotiations, where, for instance, others may want to impose tariffs, we engage with them. We go to various forums, be it on a bilateral basis or multilateral basis, and we engage with them with a view of finding solutions, be it them having acted on a unilateral basis or on the basis of either regional blocks that they may want to advance. So we are quite robust and active when it comes to economic diplomacy. More so now in the wake of the tariffs that were imposed on many countries around the world by the United States. We have decided to turbocharge our economic diplomacy and reach out to many countries around the world with a view of establishing sustainable trade relations with them, and with a view of establishing dependable relations with them, where we know that we can relate with them on the basis of respect and on the basis of trust. So that is the basis on which we exercise our economic diplomacy and deal with issues such as steel, deal with issues such as critical minerals and many others. And we are well armed with the principles and the values that underpin our general international policy. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
The next follow-up, Honorable President, is from Honorable Adriansi.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable President, our international standing should open up trade options and not close them. True non-alignment means being guided by principles, not friendships.
Yeah.
If South Africa is genuinely non-aligned, as alluded to and confirmed just now, why does government appear reluctant to criticize authoritarian states with the same vigor that applies elsewhere? And what message does that send about our commitment to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law?
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me thank you because you are reiterating precisely the principles on which our foreign policy is based. Respect for human rights, democracy, and the values that are so strongly enshrined in our Constitution. Now, we, in executing our foreign policy, we ensure that human rights and principles of democracy become our guiding light. And in exercising our foreign policy, we are able to utilize a number of policy instruments. And some would want us to engage vigorously on a bilateral basis with a number of countries. And some would want us to stand on tabletops and use megaphones to shout out our policies and all that. And some would want us just to be completely quiet. Now, we are able to utilize a variety of instruments. And where our policies are at variance with various partners in the world, we are able to vocalize precisely where we stand And we often say this is where we stand as a country, and we seek not to interfere in the policies of other countries, but state our own position. And there will be occasions where, for instance, where certain parties or entities in the world just remind us of the past that we have had, where, for instance, we believe that policies such as of apartheid are being perpetrated. And we will not be quiet. We will speak out, because the majority of South Africans lived through the horror of policies of that nature. Having felt the stone in the shoe, we will speak out. And there are other moments where, yes, there will be certain policies that could be at variance with ours. We will articulate our position very clearly and directly. And we therefore are able to utilize a variety of instruments, a variety of levers and measures to execute our policy. And we have found that it is quite successful. And others, of course, in our country would want us to stand on tabletops and just shout out at everyone, and in doing so, not even begin to achieve the purpose of getting to resolve the disputes that are given rise to by whatever is happening elsewhere in the world. And so therefore we choose our moments. We choose the various processes that are underway to engage, and all the time seeking to have disputes resolved, disputes settled in a variety of ways. That is the way that we have adopted to exercise our foreign policy. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The last follow-up question on this question, Honorable President, is from our veteran, Honorable Phala.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon once again, President. We are indeed, President, over the moon about the success of our national football club, and we really appreciate your leadership in this regard. Honorable President, thank you for adequately responding to the distortions about our beloved country's foreign policy and objectives. And I want to emphasize, President, the distortions, because our policies are very clear, as you have indicated. And Honorable President, I want to speak about the BRICS. A very important interstate body comprising economies of developing nations, the body which possesses a superior economic scale and demographic weight currently. My question, Honorable President, is that how has South Africa's membership of BRICS assisted and efforts to influence reforms of international political and economic institutions? That's my question, Honorable President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Phala. Before the President responds, I'm sure, President, you will note the timing there. It's haywire. So the server is down. Please don't mind the timer. We will indicate when your time has lapsed. You may proceed, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Member refers to our participation in BRICS. We are a proud member as South Africa of the BRICS formation, which has grown by leaps and bounds and now represents up to 48 to 50% of the world population, of the global GDP of about 40 to 50 or 43%, and a nominal GDP of about 30%. Now, it has enormous reserves. And when you come, for instance, to reserves such as oil, it's almost 50% of oil reserves or assets that of liquid petroleum that reside in BRICS countries, as well as gas and all that. So for us as a country, the benefits that we derive from BRICS are quite enormous. And we never want to compare one global formation to another, but BRICS stands out as an outlier, which has brought together a number of countries that want to cooperate, trade with one another, and in proving that, they established the new development bank, which is helping to fund particularly infrastructure projects in various countries. And when BRICS countries get together, they discuss all manner of things. And one of the recent areas of discussion was, for instance, in just having common payment systems, global payment systems, a matter that has been thoroughly discussed by all those countries. I mean, payment systems are so important for countries that trade with each other. And so as that whole idea matures, going beyond just the formation of the investment body or the new development bank, we'll find that it becomes more and more effective and enables those countries to trade with each other on a seamless basis. And there are a number of other areas in which BRICS comes up with policy positions, and without, of course, interfering in the policies of each country. And this is where, for instance, we utilize the BRICS as a melting point of enabling countries to express their views on a number of issues and still be able to retain their own sovereignty. So BRICS has been a great benefit to us as South Africa, and that is why we're so proud to be associated with a number of countries that are members of BRICS. In many, many ways, being a very small economy country, being a member of BRICS actually lifts us up and gives us benefits that we would otherwise not have. So BRICS has been of great benefit to us as a rather smaller economy than the gigantic economies such as China, Brazil, India, and a number of others. And we participate with all those countries on the basis of equality, of respect, and knowing the value that we each add. And the value that we add is so respected. Even as BRICS summits are also held in our country, they value the positive contribution that South Africa makes in the BRICS family. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. We are taking the last question, which is from Honorable Kaunda in relation to the presidential nodal points. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Presidential Nodal Points Program, incorporating the Urban Renewal Program and the Integrated Sustainable Rural Development Program, predates this administration. While the specific institutional arrangement that are associated with these programs have changed over time, the underlying objective of directing coordinated government interventions across areas that are characterized by poverty, unemployment, and underdevelopment remains a feature of our government's policy. These objectives have subsequently been reflected in programs such as the Comprehensive Rural Development Program, approved by Cabinet in the year 2009, and more recently through the Integrated Rural Development Sector Strategy of 2023. Now, these objectives have now been taken up through the district development model, specifically the work to address development challenges through an integrated approach to policy planning and execution. So the DDM, as we call it, was introduced in 2019 to fix the coordination challenges that have long undermined service delivery. The DDM is meant to overcome the problem of government spheres and departments that have tended to operate in silos, which has led to a lack of coherence in planning and implementation, resulting in poor service delivery and low levels of investment in social infrastructure. Now, this DDM focuses all spheres of government on the municipal, district, and metropolitan spaces as the key sites of joint planning, budgeting, and implementation, working together with business, labor, and this is the real good aspect of DDM, because it seeks to engender cooperation, collaboration between government, labor, civil society, as well as business and ordinary citizens in each district or metro, and develop a single long-term plan that all three spheres of government align resources behind, working together with a number of key role players in the area. This is meant to accelerate delivery of water, sanitation, electricity, and roads. What had been service delivery challenges can be turned into development opportunities through localized procurement and job creation that promotes and supports local businesses. The key objective of the district development model is to coordinate a government-wide response to poverty, unemployment, and inequality. In fact, it should be seen as a stakeholder-wide response, because it does not only limit itself to what government should do, it brings government closer to citizens, but also enables businesses to also be part of this process, labor to be part of this, and community-based organizations by strengthening the coordination role and capacities at the district and metro level. This improves responsiveness and accountability. The DDM process expedites delivery by breaking the silos down and assigning plans and budgets and converting service delivery blockages into local and employment opportunities in our districts. And we have seen this working out so well, albeit in its nascent stages. In eThekwini, which is one of our big metros, which is a district in the end, where we have seen business, unions, local government, provincial government and national government, and community-based organizations working together. And we've seen how, for instance, the city of Durban has been transformed, and the local areas that make up the metro are now also beginning to benefit from all that. We still have a long way to go, but we've embarked on a process that is definitely going to turn eThekwini into the true jewel, for instance, of tourism in our country once again, and also ensure that service delivery becomes a process that benefits all. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President, for the response. The first follow-up question is going to be asked by Honorable Kaunda.
Thank you, Your Excellency, or Chairperson, and thank you, Your Excellency, for your comprehensive response. Let me also take this opportunity to wish you well in your evening meeting to reposition Africa to take its rightful position in the global economy. We wish you everything of the best. Honorable President, looking at how this targeted approach, which was implemented through the presidential nodal point, has impacted positively, especially in the areas like Umsinga, KwaZulu-Natal, which is a poverty-stricken area, KwaMaphumulo, Inanda, Ntuzuma, and Ngwamashu. So if you look at the evaluation of how this have impacted, there are positive indicators that if this can be taken forward, it will also continue to make and add more value in turning the tide around. So my follow-up question is the president considering to revive such an intervention, which is a very targeted intervention to turn around the fortunes of these communities, especially if you look at the areas like Inanda. Inanda is leading with conduct crimes in the Republic of South Africa. So it still requires, as much as there were interventions, but we still need more interventions in this regard. Is the president considering to revive such a noble program? Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Kaunda. Over to you, Honorable President.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The answer is yes. We do need, as we proceed with the implementation of a district development model, which really calls for us to focus on specific areas in our country and develop one plan, one budgeting framework, as well as doing it under the rubric of one government, a government that is layered as national government, provincial government, and local government, and embark on projects that are going to be of benefit to our people. And yes, begin to deal with even areas such as criminality, which, as you correctly say, is so rife in some areas in KZN, and not only in KZN, but in a number of places around the country. Yes, that is our intention. And for instance, just yesterday we were talking about the Eastern Seaboard, which will be a cross-border type of project, which will incorporate the Southern KZN and the Eastern Cape, and a number of districts that will be focused on with a high level of interventions, catalytic projects for infrastructure, bringing in investors from a number of places. And now this is going to be one of those projects that is going to be, in my view, quite exciting, because it brings together traditional leaders, brings together local governments across the border of two provinces, and brings together the private sector, and brings together local government as well as provincial and national government in an area of our country which has been quite neglected, which has some of the poorest regions in our country. And as we execute the various projects, the district development model will be at the core of it, and we'll be able to embark on those type of projects that will lift the lives of our people, just as Honorable Kaunda was saying, with areas that he alluded to Msinga, and a few others. So that is the intention as we embark on implementing the district development model. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. I now invite Honorable Pienaar to ask a follow-up question.
Dankie, voorzitter. Mr. President, let's hope I can get an answer out of you this time. Mr. President, the ANC ministers and speechwriters have been peddling the DDM model ambitiously for the last few years. Why do you keep pushing for centralized control even though the South African Communist Party has abandoned you? Thank you, Chairperson.
I don't know who's been writing those follow-up questions for you, Honorable Pienaar.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're so
Honorable
obsessed about the ANC today. Honorable President, you may not respond to the question because there's no relevance to the initial question that's been posed before you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And of course, I will follow your guide in this regard. But all I would want to say is, Honorable Pienaar, in Xhosa we would say unochuku. Ka Sotho re re, o rata ditshele. Wa seba o tlisa ditshele tsa ko ntle o di tlisa mo. In Venda we say ufuna zwitshele. Honorable Chairperson, all I would say is, if one actually did a thorough study of the district development model, which I invite Honorable Pienaar to look at, it's actually one of the most decentralized models, because what it seeks to do is to actually devolve the process of planning to that district level. And I've come to really believe that development takes place not in a sort of silo or in a singular manner. It should take place at the district level. I've seen how it works, for instance, in education. I've seen how it works, and I'll cite this example again in eThekwini, where at the district level we are able to devolve discussions, various processes of implementation to that level, and give powers to that level, where we say you have the ability, the power to implement your plan, and you craft your budget, and you ensure that various processes, which should be owned by yourselves at that local level, without, for instance, national or province breathing down on you. And where you need support and assistance, you can then tap onto that at the provincial and national level. That is how the district development model works. It empowers our local government at the district level. It gives enough capability at that level, even the skills that we seek to win, and they work together. And through that, we break down silos. Now, if you want to say that breaking down silos is to centralize, it is actually to bring about efficiency and effectiveness and get those who used to work in a fragmented manner to work together to make things happen. And that is how magic happens. If you looked at how Bafana Bafana won last night, they won because they were so well integrated. And I'm not a football commentator. Their game was so well integrated. And they acted, yes, as individual players, but acting together and for one goal. And of course, they scored one goal, which was the winning goal. But that is what district development model is also all about. And I think they studied it and they perfected it last night. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is from the Deputy Chairperson of the Council, Honorable Kavenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable President, I'd like to take this opportunity in your presence to commend the South African Police Services in KwaZulu-Natal, led by the Acting Provincial Commissioner, Major General Gopal, for finally arresting the fourth suspect of a gang who brutally murdered 7 members of the Munsami family in Kwaduguza. And I remember, Honorable President, that at that time you had a very sympathetic response to that brutal crime. And I pray that those criminals will face the full might of the law. Thank you for your support on that issue, Honorable President. And now coming to my question, one of the critical interventions in the district development model is the development of one plans, which are critical for strengthening 3-sphere planning, coordination, and interventions to address issues of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. My question, Honorable President, is what support systems has government put in place to ensure the completion of one plans across all districts and metros in order to accelerate the implementation of the medium-term development plan priorities to drive development in these areas, including the accelerated development of rural areas? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to the Deputy Chairperson for those kind words. The whole process of getting our districts through the DDM model or process is work in progress. And we see that even now as our municipalities and our districts are developing their own budgets. In a number of areas, that is beginning to take effect. And in some areas, the district development model is actually being implemented. And people are actually crying out for the implementation of this model because they have seen how it works elsewhere. I spoke about, for instance, the Eastern Seaboard in our country, which is in the southern east part of the country. That is where the district development model across borders of our provinces is going to be seen to be in full effect. And the involvement of national and 2 provinces is going to be seen playing out to a point where, yes, as they embark on catalytic major projects, those will be part of the plans that will be developed in the metros that make up the Eastern Seaboard. We have seen how impactful it is in metro like eThekwini, I repeat once again, because that is the one metro that is the poster metro of the effectiveness of the district development model. And it is going to continue spreading, particularly when the need for a single plan is seen by all and sundry, particularly now as the plans are being crafted and budgets are being adopted. So it is work in progress, and I see it gaining traction. There was one province that had its doubt about the district development model, and those doubts have now dissipated, and the embrace of the DDM is now the order of the day, and I would say yes throughout the country, and we are going to begin to see real action as we see the efficacy of the district development model spreading. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The last follow-up question
is from Ubukhosi Betu in the name of Inkosi Nonkonyane. Bala.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. President, thank you very much for your comprehensive response. It is pleasing to hear that the ANC-led government continues to push back the frontiers of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, as the identification of nodal points is designed to provide all the people living in those poverty-stricken areas with needed government intervention to address inequality bequeathed by oppressive colonial and apartheid regimes and to deliver a better life to all. Arising from the responses to the question posed by Comrade Kaunda, what are the new structural reforms beyond planning interventions are being implemented to build productive, sustainable economies within the designated nodes to ensure that local entrepreneurs are able to drive down local unemployment and are linked with rural development as envisaged in the DDM model piloted in the OR Tambo region within the Eastern Cape province of Legends. Take this, Comrade President, as a true pass from an ANC midfielder for you to score as we inspired Bafana Bafana to make us all proud at the FIFA World Cup this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Bala. Over to you, Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you to Inkosi Yetu for that question. And maybe let me take a minute to expand a little on how we will see the district development model being truly implemented, particularly through the Eastern Seaboard development. And the Eastern Seaboard really incorporates iconic areas such as Coffee Bay, Port St. John's, Lusikisiki, Bizana, Kokstad, Port Shepstone, as well as Scotbra in KZN. Now that is, if you call it a precinct, that will be part of this corridor on its own. That precinct has a number of important benefits, or benefits I would call them, with regard, for instance, sectors that will contribute to the growth. And those areas that I've counted are some of the poorest areas in our country. You quote OR Tambo and the other districts in KZN. They're very, very poor, and we are focused on those areas, and it is very ambitious. It incorporates, for instance, tourism. Now, the tourism part is going to be the jewel of South Africa. It has beaches, cliffs, indigenous forests, marine resources, cultural tourism, adventure tourism, and heritage attractions. It also has agriculture and the ocean economy and renewable energy and the linkage of important roadways. And you will be aware that we are building 2 mega bridges, Msikaba and Mtento bridges, that are going to be the linkages and the pathways that are going to add a great deal of benefits to those areas, Coffee Bay and all of them, Lusikisiki, Bizana, and so forth, and Scotbra. Now, all that is going to lead to a great deal of development, and this is how the district development then fits in, because it is going to bring each of the municipalities, and it's going to bring in national governments, provincial governments, and we were just talking about it even yesterday. And catalytic projects that will be considered in that area is the development of, say, Port St. John's, which is a jewel in our country, which has long been neglected and we're going to raise Port St. John's as a key area, just like we have another important port area which has a wonderful hotel in southern KZN. And all that has enormous economic potential, and it will attract a lot of billions of rands. And already the private sector, having seen this jewel of an area in our country, and the plan that not only us as government have, but also a number of private sector players have. They see it as a strategic area, and I have said that, calling it the Eastern Seaboard is actually quite a nice, sexy name. And just as sexy as Waterfront was, Waterfront has attracted a lot of investments. And I see Eastern Seaboard with all its natural beauty also being able to do that. What will that lead to? It will lead to a lot of employment. It will lead to a lot of development. And already plans are underway for housing development, which will span all those areas, thousands of houses. But the fact that we've embarked on a catalytic project such as those bridges, and that are going to link not only our communities, but also be pathways for economic development, and also lift the wild coast in KZN to a higher level. That in itself is going to be a great boon. And this will be happening as part of the district development model, which will enhance integrated infrastructure, spatial planning, and become an investment attraction. So it's very ambitious, and I think it is doable because we have a natural resource that we will be able to get all these developments to surround. So thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. We've come to the end of the question. You may take your seat. Honorable President, would like to take this opportunity, Honorable Badenhorst Order, would like to take this opportunity, Honorable President, to thank you for leading from the front in ensuring that government is responsive to the needs and the challenges of the people of South Africa. And this to us is indicative of you respecting the doctrine of separation of power by always availing yourself to account to Parliament and to the people of South Africa at large. And for that, we would like to thank you so much for respecting this august house, and also to thank the DG and the entire component of your administration, including your ministers as well. We've not had anything untowards in terms of them having to come to respond and be accountable to this house. And for that, we thank you. Honorable delegates, we have come to the end of the sitting today. The sitting stand adjourned until further notice.